Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great, as I always say. And in this video, we got a pretty good story from the UK. So if that sounds like something that you might like, then definitely pull up a stump, like and subscribe, and yeah, let's jump right into it. Thank you for watching. So I've been meaning to get this off my chest for quite a while, but I keep putting it off, and other stuff gets in the way. But before I begin, I'll give you a little bit of info. At this time, I'm 26 years old. I'm living in the UK. I was born close to Birmingham and moved to Ticknall when I was 10 because of reasons that I will not get into here. It's a quiet village in the middle of nowhere. There's old people everywhere. Just to clarify, so you know, the events that I'm going to write about happened over the space of like 14 to 15 years, so I may jump around a bit, but please stay with me if you can. I'd like to get some clarity and or reassurance on if this is possible. So, here we go. This first one was on December 2002. It was my first Christmas in this new house. The house is pretty big, there's lots of land to it, 10 acres or so, I believe. Behind the house is a woodland area. Behind the woods is a large reservoir. Me and Dad regularly go walking through the woods. Sometimes we fish at the reservoir. This is during school holidays, and Mum and Dad both have time off. This never happens, so we spend lots of time doing stuff together. One day, we walk through the woods to the reservoir. Everything looks perfectly normal. I'm sitting on a bench looking at some boats and stuff. Suddenly, I notice something in the water. It's a long white thing. I can't tell exactly what it is. It's about 50 to 60 feet away. I point it out to my parents and ask them what it is. One of them says, it might be a dead heron. I roll with this as I've never seen a heron or a dead heron by this point. About half an hour later though, I'm walking back towards the woods. I run off ahead to feed the ducks. I notice this white thing again, but closer this time, enough to see what it is. It's a white sleeve with a bluish hand at the front. It's a severed arm. I freak out. My parents run over and ask what's wrong. I explain that there's an arm floating in the water. Dad calms me down and tells me to look at the water. The arm is gone. At this time, I figured it was just like my stupid kid brain screwing with me. After this, we fast forward to February 2003. I'm in the woods with my cousin, Tom, who is about 8 years old, and I'm 12. We're building some kind of den. It's about 4 in the afternoon, so the sun is going to be setting. It's not dark yet though, but it will be soon. Tom goes to find more sticks for the den. I stay and carry on building the walls. It's not a great den, it's only about 3 feet tall. I put the last stick on the wall. Tom isn't back. I shout Tom, and he answers. I can't see where he is though. I start looking for more sticks myself, in the opposite direction to Tom. 2 minutes later though, I hear a scream. It's Tom, and this scream scares me. Why is Tom screaming? I pause for a few seconds. I don't know what to do. I start running towards where Tom is. Tom is heading towards me, crying. And I mean really crying, like sobbing, red-faced, panicked, there's snot coming down his face. I ask what's wrong. He screams that a man tried to take him. We run back to the house. My parents try to calm us down. They make us hot chocolate, give us a hug and stuff like that. Tom tells his story. He says that a doctor told him to go away with him because he wanted to make him better. My parents are very concerned about this. My dad calls the police to report it, just in case. 2 hours later, the police arrive, and they ask us questions, and then search the woods. There's no one there, and My parents think obviously it's been 2 hours. Where were you? The next month or so, Tom doesn't come over, and my parents get a bit more protective and tell me not to go into the woods as much. Now we jump forward again to the end of May 2005. I'm 14 now. I have a little brother, Dylan, who is 6. We regularly take walks through the woods and look at birds and stuff. He absolutely loves birds. Today is particularly warm for this time of year. My cousin Tom is visiting once again, so we go into the woods. Dylan and Tom go ahead. I'm absent-mindedly texting or something. I sit on a tree stump and carry on texting. Dylan and Tom go on ahead. Dylan runs back and asks if he can climb trees with Tom. My parents always say no, but I'm not a parent, so I say, yeah, go for it. About 30 minutes pass. Tom and Dylan are laughing and shouting to each other and playing around. I decide to put my phone away and see what they're up to. Suddenly, I notice that I can't hear them anymore. I shout out to them. No response. I'm not concerned, just annoyed. I reckon that they're up to no good and want to jump out at me or something. But I see both of them standing by a tree about 30 feet away. I head towards them and ask what they're doing. Both boys are silent, staring up at the tree, and I think, what the hell are you guys doing? I get closer and I ask again, what are you guys doing? No response. I look up at the tree and I don't see anything there, so eventually I get a little angry and I say, okay, what the F are you guys doing? Both Tom and Dylan look at me, visibly scared. What's he doing? And I think these kids are creeping me the frig out. Who? What are you on about? One says, the man in the tree. Why is he in the tree? And I think, okay, this is weird. Screw this. There's no one in the tree. There's no one in the woods. I tell the boys that this isn't funny and we're going home. I am quite freaked out by this now. So we get back to the house and the boys sit on the sofa. They look pale and worried. Jenny, Tom's mum, asks what happened. I say they were playing a stupid game and go to my room. I can hear my parents talking to Tom and Dylan from the top of the stairs. Both boys say that an old man with a white coat was up the tree. The boys say that I couldn't see him when they told me to look. My dad asks what kind of white coat the man was wearing. They say, like a long doctor's coat. About 10 minutes later or so, Dad comes up to my room and he asks about the man in the tree, and I tell him, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see anything. Later that night, Tom has gone home and Dylan is in bed. I come downstairs. My mum and dad talk about the incident. We all conclude that the boys must have seen something on TV or something, and we think nothing more of it. At about 10:30 though, I'm on my computer chatting on MSN Messenger, which is old school for a lot of you younger people. My mate asks if I want to meet him and some other mates at the reservoir tomorrow. Suddenly, I have a realization. The reservoir, the white-sleeved arm, the man in the doctor's coat. I'm freaked out, but I try to rationalize the situation as just being a weird coincidence. So now we move on to August of 2005. My family are over for a barbecue. It's my uncle's birthday. It's a good party and a lot of fun. It's a Saturday night, so all of the kids stay up late to play. It's about 11ish. Everyone is leaving or has left by now. Tom's family is still here. Darren's family is still here. Darren is another cousin that we never saw much of. He only appeared at special occasions, just like Santa. Darren is older than me. He must be about 16 or so at this point, and he's so cool, which I thought at the time because he smoked, secretly of course, so that he doesn't get into trouble. Me, Dylan, Tom, Darren, and Paul, Darren's 10-year-old brother, are all sitting on a bench by the edge of the woods, away from the house and family, but not too far though. Darren is smoking and offers everyone a puff, but nobody wants to take it, and he calls us names, and Darren is a bit of a prick, to be honest. Darren's dad shouts over. He says that they're leaving in 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, Darren's dad shouts again. We all decide to go back to the house as he is leaving. As we stand up and start to leave, we hear a noise in the woods, rustling leaves and a branch snapping. We figure that it must be a bird or a fox because they're pretty noisy when they want to be. No big deal, really. We get about 20 to 30 feet away from the bench, and then we hear a louder noise. It sounds like rustling and footsteps. It sounds like something walking through piles of dry leaves, which is strange because there's not enough leaves on the ground to make so much noise. We stop and look at the woods. We can't see much. The sun has been down for a while, but the horizon is still light. We can make out through the trees and branches in the woods. Suddenly, we notice something else there. It's moving. It's not really big, but not super small either. It stops by a tree. Darren says, "What the F is that?" We can't see much. We just see a shadowy figure. It looks like a tall man. At the distance we were standing, I'd say between 6 and 7 feet tall. It's just standing there by a tree, kind of peering around the tree at us. Darren decides that he's the big man. He says, "Oi, who are you?" There's no response. Darren suggests going to have a look, and I think, you want to go have a look at the shadowy figure that just randomly appeared? Why would you want to do that? For some reason, the other boys agree to get closer, and we all start walking back towards the figure, or the bench. It's about 10 feet behind the bench. As we get close enough to start seeing detail, my heart sinks. I start to feel sick. The person is wearing a long white coat. Dylan, Tom, and Paul freeze on the spot. Darren and I move a bit closer. Darren shouts at him again. I don't remember what he said. The figure steps out from behind the tree, and I can only make out certain details. Like I said, it's a tall man, a long white doctor or lab coat. He has glasses that I can see the light reflection from them. We should go back to the house, I say. Darren tells me not to be a pussy. I think, okay. And then Darren says to the guy, "You need to leave us alone before I smash your face in." Which, looking back, I laugh at because Darren looked like an emaciated schoolgirl. I'm not sure how he intended to smash anyone's face in. The figure takes 2 steps forwards. The younger boys are scared. They start crying. Dylan and Tom tell me that it's the man from the woods. It's the man from the tree. Even I'm freaked out now. I tell Darren that I'm taking the boys back to the house. Darren turns to call me a name or something, but then turns back and says, "Where did he go?" The figure has disappeared. We tell the adults about this. My dad, my uncle, and other cousin, Jack, who's 24. They get torches and go look. About 15 minutes pass. They come back and they can't find anyone in the woods. Eventually, everyone goes home and we all go to bed. Now, we move on to late November 2005. It may have also been early December, I don't quite remember. I get home late from school one night at about 7 p.m. I was helping to do the sound for a stage show that the drama club was putting on. There's a police car parked outside, and I think, oh shit. I get inside to find 2 police officers sat at the dining table talking to my dad. I say, "What's going on?" My dad rushes over to me, visibly upset. He tells me to go to my room for a while, so I head upstairs, and on the way I check in on my little brother. His room is empty. The light is on, but he's not in there. My mom and dad's bedroom door is open. Again, the light on, but my mom's not in there. I sit in my room for a while wondering just what the hell is happening. 20 to 25 minutes later, my dad comes up to my room. He tells me that my brother was rushed to the hospital. My mom went with him. Now I have so many questions. What happened? Is he okay? Why were the police here? My mom went into the garden to put some rubbish in the bin and found Dylan unconscious next to his swing set. Dylan explains that he hasn't woken up and says that the police were here to get information. It was a suspicious accident involving a child or something. He says that we're going to the hospital now. He gets changed and we head out. We've been at the hospital for about 3 hours now. Everyone is upset, obviously. Dylan has no visible injuries. He just won't wake up. The doctor says that he will do some scans to rule out problems like a stroke or a brain hemorrhage. And I think, oh great. Hours pass again. The scans come back clear. Why is Dylan unconscious then? The doctor says that it may have been a severe allergic reaction to an unknown allergy, so they run more tests. At 2 a.m., Dad decides to take me home so I can get some sleep. Mom stays with Dylan. At about 5:30, we get a phone call. We need to get back to the hospital because Dylan might not have much longer. And I think, are you effing serious? What is happening? We get there, and Dylan looks weird. His skin is all blue and gray. His fingernails are a light purple. Mom and Dad are both really upset. I'm just kind of numb. The doctor says that Dylan may need to be put on life support. His heart rate, his blood pressure, and breathing are all dropping. 2 more hours pass by. Dylan starts coughing and mumbling. Dad calls the nurse, who then calls the doctor. The doctor is visibly surprised to see Dylan waking up. Dylan starts crying and can barely keep his eyes open. Another hour passes and he has calmed down a bit now. He's just lying there, but his skin is back to normal. His fingernails are all normal and he's alert and okay. He just looks extremely tired. After 24 hours of observation, Dylan gets to come home. He hasn't said much, he just keeps saying his throat hurts. The next day, Dylan gets up and wants some food. He's been sleeping on and off for about 16 hours now. My mom starts talking to him about how he feels, and she asks what happened. Dylan gets upset and just stares at the floor. I go over and I try to reassure him. I tell him that everything is going to be okay and just all that stuff, even though I'm scared still too. Eventually, he stops crying and keeps staring at the floor. The man from the woods was here, and I think, oh, what the hell? Mom is clearly panicked. I ask him what he means by this, and he seems a little calmer. The man that we saw in the woods came to take me to his house. He said that little boys that are poorly need help. My mom runs to the phone to tell my dad to come home from work immediately. I tell Dylan that this is not a joke and he should stop telling stories. He gets upset and insists that it's not a story, that he isn't lying. I ask Dylan to draw the man that he saw. He draws a tall, skinny man with glasses and a long white coat, just like the guy that we all saw in the woods, but a kid's drawing. Eventually, Dad gets home, and once again, the police were called. The whole area is on alert and lookout for this man. This went on for a little over 6 months, and eventually it all stopped. People started saying that Dylan was a liar, and that he had an overactive imagination. And after this we jumped to April of 2008. I have some friends over for the night. Me, Jay, Christy, Natalie, and Andrew. Mom and Dad and Dylan are away for the night visiting family. Me and the mates are playing games, eating pizza, and drinking beer, usual teenager stuff. Around 10:30 p.m., we all decide to go for a walk in the woods. We just watched Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, so we were in the mood for a fright. I tell everyone about Dylan's experience in the woods. They all laugh and play it off as a kid's imagination. Andrew says that Dylan must have slipped into a coma and was so scared that he used the man in the woods as a way of rationalizing the fear. We light a fire and get comfy. We're telling ghost stories and all that stuff. Jay goes off to take a pee in the woods. A few minutes later, Jay shouts out something like, "Stop screwing around, dickhead." We all laugh and call out to see what the hell he's talking about. He comes back to the group and says that it wasn't funny. We ask what he means again. He says that one of us was tapping his head with a twig while he was taking a pee. We laugh. That wasn't us, man. About half an hour passes, and Jay gets jumpy again. He says that he keeps seeing something moving in the trees. We've all been drinking a bit and telling ghost stories, so we think nothing of it and just give him another beer. He insists that somebody is out there watching us. The girls get freaked out and ask to go back into the house. The mood is different now. We decide to move on. I suggest heading closer to the reservoir. It's about a 15 to 20 minute walk through the woods. Everyone eventually agrees and we head off. Suddenly, Christy screams, "What's that?" She points through the trees. We all look. My heart sinks. It looks like a man in a white coat, standing about 30 feet away. Without thinking, I say, "It's the doctor." Everyone looks at me like I'm a freak. Something seems different now. The man is walking toward us. He's never approached us before. We start walking back the way we came as quickly as possible, and suddenly, the doctor thing lets out this shriek like an injured animal and starts running at us. We panic and sprint the hell out of there. We get out of the trees and are back by the bench at the edge of the woods. We turn to see where the man is. There's no sign of him. "Is he there?" someone says. Still nothing. Then suddenly he appears from behind a tree, still running toward us. We run into the house and lock the door. The girls are crying and huddled on the sofa. Jay is freaked out, standing motionless by the stairs. Me and Andrew look out the window. The man is running up the driveway toward the house. He starts banging on the door. We shout at him, and Andrew says to call the police. One of the girls does so. The door is being hit so hard that it sounds like the wooden frame is cracking. I shout, "F off, we've called the police," but the banging continues. I look out of the window on the other side of the house, and the man is kicking the door. His arms and legs seem way too long for his body. He has shoulder-length, greasy strands of gray hair that they're so clumped together that they almost resemble worms. He stops and stares right at me. His eyes seem sunken and almost yellow. I don't know what to do, so I just stare back. He looks back at the door, then he turns and runs away back towards the woods. The police show up. We tell them our story. They know we've been drinking. We're underage and all that, so they confiscate the rest of our alcohol and leave, telling us that they'll be back to see my parents tomorrow. Nothing much happens for the rest of the night, and as they said, the police came back. I get grounded for a while, and nobody believes that this man was chasing us. We decide just not to talk about it, and we avoid the woods for a long time. So now, we move on to June of 2010. I was 19 now, and I had gotten a part-time job. I was living at home and saving my money. My girlfriend, Emily, spends most of her time at my house, and my parents were getting an extension built, a small summer house kind of building, at the back of the main house. So it's a Friday afternoon. The builders are working on the extension. Emily heads out to work. I have 3 days off and no coursework to do, so I get on with some serious gaming time. After a couple of hours, I decide to go out for a walk. It was a nice day. One of the builders calls me over and asks if I know what time my dad will be home. And I say, I'm sorry, I don't know. He says he has something important to ask him, so let him know when he arrives. I think nothing of it, and I head off for my walk. After about an hour, I'm close to another reservoir. Not the one by my house, though. This is Staunton Harold Reservoir. I meet Jay's mom, Karen. She says that Jay was talking about going camping, and I say, oh, that sounds fun. Karen jokes that she hopes that nobody chases us this time, and I think to myself, oh, you would bring that up, wouldn't you? It's not a joke. I head home soon after and start thinking about that night again. I get back to the woodland area near my house. I decide to go explore a little, not really spend much time in the woods since that night. I'm standing at the place that we had the fire. I walk over to the tree where we first saw the man, and there's nothing unusual. I spend about 15 minutes looking around and then head back to the house. I get back and the builder calls me over again. He tells me that they all saw a tall old man in the house, and they ask me who it is, and as they haven't seen him before, and they've been working there for 6 months now. And I say, oh shit. I ask for a description. It's the same old, tall, glasses, white coat. The builder tells me that he was in the window on the left on the second floor, and I think that's my brother's room. I go upstairs into Dylan's room. There's nothing there. There's nothing unusual or even out of place. I honestly just figured that the builders were local and had heard the story about the police being called that night. I shrug it off and get back to my game. So now, we jump forward to May 2013. This was the last time that I saw the doctor. I was 22. I was getting ready to move out for university, so I had some friends over. Me, Jack, and Jay. We were drinking in the woods. We had a barbecue and stuff, and I kept tapping Jay's head with a twig to remind him of that night. He tells me to stop being a dickhead, and I think, you know, that's a good point. So hours pass, and we decide to search for the old man, doctor. We figured that it was just some thing that we now were older, we wouldn't experience it again, that we figured it was some BS from when we were kids. But we think this time, Jack has a camera with him. It's about 7:20 p.m., so it's getting a little bit dark. We take photos and call out for this doctor to show himself. It's like one of those bad paranormal shows. After an hour, nothing happens. We carry on for shits and giggles. Jack stops and says, "That's weird." He shows us the screen on the back of his camera. He took 3 photos of a tree, and they're a little blurry, and 2 of them have this strange looking greenish mist in front of the tree. On the other photo, it's gone, but still blurry. We take more photos and call out some more. Jay decides that he wants to threaten the old man. He says he saw it on a TV show, and I think, oh, great. 10 to 15 minutes pass, and we hear a noise. It sounds like a dog throwing up, and we all think, what the hell is this? We try to find the source of the sound. We find nothing. Jay calls out again. The noise stops. Then we hear another noise. The footsteps are on dry leaves. We look around, but we can't see anything. Jack is still taking photos. I get my phone out and turn the torch on. I'm looking around the area. Suddenly, Jack calls us over. 5 new photos with weird things in them. The first photo looks like it was taken through a dirty window. The second photo, a white mist is blocking the view. The next 3 photos show the tree he was looking at, but it looks like a hand is coming around the tree. We decide that this must be the spot. We call out again and again. We hear the weird dog vomit noise again, but this time behind us and louder. We turn around and see a shadow by another tree. Surely not. It looks like a man is standing there, watching us. Jack takes photos, but the tree is too far away to focus in such low light. We get closer. Suddenly, it's this weird smell. It's like a mix of wet soil and horse manure. I don't really enjoy the smell, obviously. We call out and ask who is there. There's no response. We get closer still. Then, we can see it, the white coat. I shout at the figure and ask who is there. No response. It doesn't move. Jack changes the battery in his camera because it randomly goes dead. Me and Jay move closer, literally about 10 feet away from this doctor thing now. We can hear him breathing. It's like a low, deep death rattle growl. And the smell is so bad. I feel sick almost. I get a little bit closer. I can see his eyes now. He's staring right at me, literally making eye contact with him. I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'3", and he makes me look short. I'm having to look upwards to hold eye contact with him. I say, "Who are you? What do you want?" He remains silent, apart from the heavy breaths. Jack comes over and takes a photo. Suddenly, he erupts in anger. He starts growling and screaming and waving his arms around. We move back and he starts snarling like a dog. We shout at him to stay back. He starts swaying from side to side in a really unnerving way. I have never seen anyone move like this before. It's hard to describe. It's like he's defying gravity or something. Jack takes another photo. He's really turning out to be a madman right now. The doctor lets out this horrible yell. I tell Jack to stop taking photos. I don't want to get butchered by a tall old man in the woods. The doctor stops, like, perfectly still as the tree he is standing next to, and he just goes quiet. Absolute silence. We wait for about 30 seconds and then call out to him again. We don't know what to say. Hello? Nothing. He is standing perfectly still. His eyes are fixated on me. It's like he just shut down or something. Jack tried to take more photos, but his camera has stopped working, and we think, oh, typical. I got my phone out again and tried to take photos of the man with it. When we looked back at them, they hadn't turned out. They were all weird and like almost corrupted looking. I tried to get another one, but as I raised my phone, the man started running. We chased after him. He ran fast, almost too fast, like absurdly fast. We couldn't keep up with him at all, but then he stopped again. The same weird, perfectly still position. He turned and stared at us again. I shouted out something like, "Stop running," or "Stay still." I wanted to get a proper look at this guy, or thing, or whatever it was. He lets out another screech. It was a sound that I will never forget. It almost sounded like a special effects sound from a film or something, like a dragon or something. I don't remember, or I don't know. Then, he starts climbing a tree. We ran over to get a better look, but again, he was moving too fast. We looked up the tree, but we couldn't hear or see anything. I shone the light from my phone up the tree, and we couldn't see him. We waited around for about 20 minutes after this. He was gone. We stayed up all night drinking and wondering just what the frig had happened. We are all really spooked. We tried to upload the photos to the computer. We went through each one, and they're all bad. None of them turn out, which I know sounds convenient, but we went back into the woods the following night, and we tried to replicate it and nothing happened. We didn't see or hear anything. Soon after this, I moved away to university, and I now live with my girlfriend. We live about 10 or 12 miles from that woodland, but I'd never been back into those woods. I visit my family from time to time, and I always feel uneasy when I look at the trees. I feel like I should go back there and maybe have another look around. I don't know. My family still lives there, but they've never seen anything else other than when the dog gets really spooked every now and then. The dog refuses to go into the woods alone, and when she goes outside at night, she refuses to move away from the house and just stares out of the woods. If you put your hand in front of her eyes, she'll freak out and she'll move her head around your hand to keep looking at the woods. The whole thing is really screwed up. So, what did you think of that story? I thought it was wild. And I know the part about the camera screwing up sounds very convenient, but I also know the feeling because I explored a old school with some people before, and we definitely saw stuff or caught stuff, but none of the pictures turned out like they were supposed to. I don't know. It was weird. It was very disappointing too because they tore down the school soon after that. But anyways, let me know what you thought of the story. And if you want to support the channel, there's a Patreon and a PayPal, and there's the Super Thanks button and all that stuff if you want to do that. If you want to send in your own story, then there's an email in the description, which I should update the email, but it's timtalks2021@gmail.com. I should update it to like theleaf@gmail.com or something, but give me some time here, guys, you know. But anyways, I hope you had a good week, and if you didn't, I hope that this could help you a little bit. It's a longer story, so I know I definitely enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm just kind of rambling now, so I shall see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching.